Hi, I'm Wenzes. Hi, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and today's topic is infjs. Hi guys, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and today's topic is infjs and boundaries. And I think this is a very important issue when it comes to fulfilling our life goals, because the way we set up boundaries determines how much we let into our system, how much we actually set as a benchmark for us to reach. And it's a common problem. Hi everybody, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and today's topic is infjs and boundaries. And I think setting boundaries is a very important issue for us. Hi guys, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and today's topic is infjs and setting boundaries. I think it's a very important issue for us since we live in this NI world most of the time. We naturally do not have strong boundaries. We let a lot of things affect us if we want to. So this leads to us more or less really shielding ourselves from society. We have just a really small number of friends. We don't let so many people in our inner space because it's hard for us to interact with people, and we feel their energy, and therefore we get hurt. So therefore we just shut out people. But that is not actually setting a boundary. And that's what we kind of think. We just don't let people in our personal space, as in we don't interact. But what we actually have to do, and what is really setting boundary, is actually really building up an internal wall of how much we let other people affect us, and also how deep we look into other people. That's something also a lot of us don't really see as boundaries. Boundaries is not so much only about how much you reveal about yourself, but also how deep do you interpret other person's action. If somebody's, for example, defensive, do you stop there and just say, okay, that person is acting rude towards me, so at that point I'm using my FE judgment. As I said, this is not objectively right. I haven't done anything from an outside point of view. So I'm saying this person is acting rude towards me. Okay, I'll stick at that. I'm not gonna keep on going. I'm gonna stay there. If they want to apologize, that's fine. If not, I'll just stay where I'm at. I can talk to them, it's fine, but I won't let them see more of myself. I won't really look and try to understand them more. But what our natural tendency is that we think, oh, that person is getting defensive. What did I do? What did I say wrong? What has happened in his past or her past that has made them really that vulnerable that they have to put up boundaries at that spot and at that place and have to really defend themselves and so on. And yeah, that's our NI. If you really give all your NI all the power and you make all the other function its slaves, this is what happens. You don't know where to stop. Because in the end, everybody in our eyes is a good person if they're not some psychopath or something. And there's always a reason why they act this way. There's always something triggered in them, and you're just vulnerable and so on. This is NI. You don't know where to stop. Okay? And what you need to do is have your FE stop that process at some point. And so that's pretty much the difference between really pushing somebody out and really setting boundaries. And we think, oh, I'm setting boundaries because I'm not calling that person. Well, that's not setting a boundary at that point. Really setting a boundary is actually not caring what the reasons for their bad actions are, or not really going that far. Because what you have to realize is that if you open up more and you think by doing that you allow other people to not feel vulnerable around you and to really open up more, is you're actually putting them in a bad position, because you're kind of forcing them to open up more, although they don't want to. They do have boundaries at that area that they don't want to share with anybody anymore, or not with you. And you're kind of pushing them to do that by opening up more. So they really get defensive at that point because they're kind of forced to do something they don't really want to do by themselves. And what you also don't understand is when you open up, and let's say you have like 100, theoretically you can open up 100%, and then you open up 50%, that other person stops at 50, because when you go to 60 you see that they're like kind of struggling and they don't want to go there, they're scared of opening up because they're vulnerable and so on. So what you do is, what our natural tendency is, we try to understand more of that person, we try to absorb more of them. So we look into like 70% into them, or 80, or we try to figure out more, we open ourselves more up. So like from 50, let's say, to 70%, and allow 70% of that person's energy to enter our energy field. But that's not like that's just how it works for us. They are still at those 50%. So they're opening up 50% and they can get like access of 50% of our energy somehow, but that's it. And if you kind of like open up even 70%, then they think that's like your 50%. They look just at the superficial thing. So let's say you're being nice because you think, oh, when you're not being nice, you're hurting them. They don't see that. They, since they only look into 50% into you, they all see, oh, she's being nice, she wants something. Because that's how they would act at 50%. And what we also don't really consider very often is that most people can't really access more than 50%. This is just an example. Especially I've seen this with dominant judgers, or let's say like ENFJs, for example. They really try to stick to themselves. But I've also seen like with INFPs who are introverted, dominant judgers, and I'm pretty sure it's with a lot of different personality types. I would say you could rather see it in dominant judgers, that they really want to stick to them, like they really want to be one person, even with the people that they're married to, or that they're really close to, or that they like. They still want to be an individual, and that is actually something we can learn from. I know that a lot of us have like this fantasy of being in a world where we can just have like we're one energy field with that person with us. There's no boundaries of this is me, this is them. But yeah, that's just like how it should be in your NI, or how your NI would idealize everything. What we have to realize is that I know our NI is beautiful, and the imagination that you have for this life is really wonderful, but you have one-time NI, and then you have reality. And reality is a little different. And with reality, you have to also consider how other people are built. You have to consider that other people don't want that boundless space with you. And that's not because they're sick or there's something wrong with them. It's just like their kind of way of going about life. Let's say an ENFJ, for example. Yeah, what happens is they have this constant FE going at them, right? So just imagine if you're interacting with somebody and then you feel guilty for hurting them, for example, and you have this like bad feeling inside of you, or you also get happy because other people get happy with what you did. That's FE. And now imagine this, ENFJs have that constantly, their entire life. So their entire life they have like this energy from outside building up on them, and they always want to be bigger and want to like really stand up. So this is like they have like this burden on those feelings on top of them, and their entire life they try to stand up and be themselves. And of course they're gonna try to stay an individual, because if they once let somebody in, then they can they cannot really, there's nothing to hold on to. And this is just how they function. This is not something you can change by being compassionate or by allowing something good to happen. And also with ENFJs, I think I like talking about ENFJs in this matter because in socionics they're called like our mirror relations, because we can learn a lot from them. In a lot of ways we're similar, and others we're completely different, and boundaries is one of them. Boundaries is definitely one of them, because what I used to do was when I hit a wall with somebody, I really opened up more. And let's say with an ENFJ, they're gonna take more, okay? Because they're like, they have all this burden on top of them, and then you allow them to really go more and more into your space, and you don't show any any boundaries, they get frustrated because first off, they don't know what you're about, which is very confusing. And second of all, they don't know where to stop. They will take more and more because they cannot tell when they're hurting you because you don't want to show it. You know that they say INFJs are so secretive. Well, that's like one part to look at it. And yeah, it's just not gonna get any better. Um, yeah. What we have to understand also is that we cannot save people by being compassionate in general. Like you do, like everybody needs to learn on themselves by themselves. You can help people, you can be helpful and understanding, but you have to really, really have a point where you say to this point and no further. Because if you don't set boundaries, then people are not going to learn. It's just not going to happen. This is exactly with me. I always thought, if I'm being nice, if I'm being compassionate to people, then people will like me because I haven't done anything for them not to like me. So I really am scared of being somewhere and somebody thinking I'm a bad person. Okay? So I thought, so this is like a way of control. You think if I act the way they want me to act, then they cannot not like me. Okay? And this is an illusion. And this is an illusion. And I personally, the only way I really learned out of this was when I got to a point where I was really open. I tried to, it was actually with an ENFJ where I really tried to understand them because they're so similar. So I thought, at some point we could really like mash and talk and realize that this person would never be able to really think about me first. They're always going to think about them first because they have to. And this is not something that's a bad thing, It's not a bad thing. And I really had come to a point where I had let so much of that person's energy into my energy field that I felt this is such a beautiful soul, so good. Although they've been keep repeatedly hurting me, but I thought, that's because I've done something. I have hurt them. I have whatever has happened before. And I had to realize that it doesn't matter how much I do. If I just be like compassionate and giving and giving and giving, it's not gonna make them stop. It's not gonna make them stop taking, and it's not gonna help them. They're not gonna feel like, with a little more love, they'll wake up from this nightmare because they think they have all this ENFJ, for example, had like this huge pain inside of them, and they didn't want to confront that pain. So in order to not have to go there, they always try to like be bigger and push themselves out and like put so much of their energy out there so they don't have to confront that. And by you not putting up boundaries, you're actually enabling that person. You have to understand if there are people with like some kind of issues that you see, it's not helping anybody by being giving and compassionate. You can be like to a little point, but then you have to set boundaries and set this is it. Because that person has to really realize that there's nowhere else to go than to really confront their own feelings and their own worries and then wake up from that. Like the same thing happened with me when I realized, no, it's just a coping mechanism that I think that just because I can read people and I can do everything in order to maintain a good relationship with them, I can protect myself from not being not liked. And it's just an illusion. I personally had to really fall on my face and realize that. And I hope you don't have to. I hope you can really just learn from this and realize that what we're striving for, having no space between somebody else or whatever it is, that this is just, it's just an ideal, and it's probably not going to work with reality, because everybody just comes from a different point, like from a different space. They view life differently, especially if they're other types. And it's important that you realize that this is not going to happen. You're not going to fill yourself up by getting somebody else's energy. Or you shouldn't, because mostly of the time you have to like really compromise your strength, you have to compromise your wishes, and it's not healthy. So by setting boundaries and by realizing that you should not fill up your space by somebody else. You should fill up yourself by something you put out there. And it's difficult. It's difficult. I understand it because there's a lot of space to fill. But you know in what direction to go. You know how to energize yourself and how to really build something that cannot be taken away from you, and where you really say, if I think from my NI point, I can understand where they're coming from, and I know this is a natural tendency for me to think, what's wrong with him, and so on. But what we have to try is just put more emphasis into our FE, really think about just objectively ethical points, and realize, is this a situation which I should, which I should actually help, what's the word, enable, which I should enable, and it's not. Compassion is not always the most helpful thing, especially if you're dealing with a person who has rather other issues than you. Okay, so I think this is it for now. This is a very broad topic, and I think this is something we should also talk about more in the future, because we have to really talk about how we're actually gonna build those boundaries. Not only say why and how, and it's also a process by really realizing what our coping mechanisms are. We can really face reality, wake up, as I always say, wake up and have an eye as one thing and something that nobody can take away from you, and then you have reality and how you're going to approach that. So I think the next times we're going to talk a bit more about these things. I'll look forward to new ideas from the idea pool, seeing what kind of direction we're going to go, but this is for starters. Okay, wish you all a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye.